Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star Part 212 based on novel. So let's start. The jubilant Mosha body didn't bother to care about the knight's reaction. The instant Mosha body dove into the golden pool, he sensed the distortion in space. He had entered an abysmal passage filled with dominant godly force of gold and leading him rapidly to the land of origin, the ocean of gold laws. Boom! As Mosha body was about to reach the land of origin, an irresistible power from the universe suppressed him and kicked him out of the passage. Mosha body rolled, then stood in the air. He was in a void. In the distance were some irregular astronomical objects, including some giant, desolate meteorites and floating pieces of broken continents. Where am I? Mosha body immediately checked the universe coordinates and was pleasantly surprised when he saw the data. He had been ejected while on his way to the land of origin and had instead arrived at a void only a few light years away from the place that had been breeding the space heart. I'm several light years away from that mysterious place, he said, but luckily, this is close to 9 remoteness space. Not only did I waste no time, but I actually saved a lot of time. Now, regarding this transformation, Mosha body was filled with joy. He couldn't wait any longer and began to examine the changes in himself carefully. Even if he could somehow acquire the space heart itself, he still wouldn't have been as exhilarating as he was at this moment. After all, the applications of space heart would have been limited until Luo Feng's strength reached a certain level. But as Mosha body clenched his fists, the formidable power it produced trembled the void. Break! Mosha body casually swung his right hand, which formed a claw shape, and tore through the void. This power is mighty, he said. And awesome. Previously, Mosha body had only had the strength of a pinnacle sector lord. His strength was so weak that he could only fight against official-level undying fighters with the help of his profound lore comprehension. I am 100 times more precise than before, Mosha body said, his eyes bright with excitement. What was the reaction accuracy of a great being? Mosha body was sure that his strength had reached a stage 100 times stronger than the force of a sector lord. Among the billions of lineages in the universe, even the space beasts from the 12 pinnacle lineages, like the golden horned beast, were only 10 times stronger than the force of a sector lord. Now that Mosha body had gained power 100 times stronger than that of a sector lord, he had reached the level of an average special organism. The space heart had elevated him to the level a special organism. Of course, such a transformation could be attributed to Mosha body's life characteristics. The weaker the Mosha body was, the greater the effect the space heart could exert upon him during his transformation. As far as I know, it is complicated to enhance the life gene level, Mosha body said to himself. Even by using all kinds of treasures, few great beings from the human race can improve 10 times. The same probably applies to the Mosha clan. I can't believe my Mosha body has enhanced 100 times. But perhaps this should come as no surprise. A space heart is, after all, the core of original true treasures. In fact, within the Mosha clan, the great beings on the senior level would use such life gene level enhancing treasures as the space heart to improve themselves. The effects on them, however, were not as pronounced as they were on Luo Feng. Perhaps only a once-in-a-billion-year, incredibly talented sector lord would be eligible to use such treasures. Mosha body deployed his teleportation. Swish! Mosha body blended into the void and reappeared 60 million miles away. Swish! 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 He kept teleporting himself to different places. Wow! My teleportation doesn't induce changes in space ripples? As soon as Mosha body stopped, he couldn't help but laugh heartily within the void. World-level teleportation was normally like diving into space ripples rigidly and reappearing in the distance. Other great beings could easily sense the unusual changes of the space ripples. For instance, world levels were easy to be found once they teleported within the ice hell. However, things worked differently for universe knights. With thorough control of space laws, they could blend into space ripples seamlessly without causing any unusual changes. And when they reappeared in the distance, the space ripples would remain as expected. For example, When Luo Feng had stolen the black metal board and the purple knight appeared behind him via teleportation, Luo Feng hadn't been able to notice his presence. A universe knight could teleport over 1,000 light-years without causing the slightest fluctuation, whereas world-level teleportation would induce abnormal changes by teleporting 1 light-year or so. This was the distinction between the two kinds of teleportation. My teleportation no longer invokes changes in the space ripples, Mosha Body said, delighted. I have never felt so closely connected to space as I do now. I felt like I was integral to space when I was in the central region of the cone-shaped mountain, but that intimate feeling has become clearer as I teleport at this moment. Mosha Body integrated himself entirely into the space ripples and reappeared in the distance. If Mosha Body had been favored by space before, he was now what would be considered a space special organism, who could seamlessly integrate himself into space 10,000 times better than before. The distance of the space ripples that I can sense has also changed, said Mosha Body joyfully. I feel like I can teleport over 100 light-years without causing the slightest fluctuations. Haha. Mosha Body was exuberant. But he also knew what he had achieved was to be expected, for he had completely absorbed the essence of the space heart, thus becoming an incredible special organism. Special organisms like Silver Eyes were not only enormous in size but had numerous fascinating methods. Let me see the last method, said Mosha Body with a bit of anticipation in his eyes. When the life crystal imprinted the second set of lore engravings, Mosha Body realized that he had gained another talent technique. Since he had never exerted this talent technique before and was not clear on its true power, but the talent techniques of special organisms were unique and dominant. If Luo Feng's gene-level transformation, a result of cultivating from the 9-volume manual, could be considered artificial transmutation, then Mosha Body's conversion was more like natural evolution, which fit more comfortably within universe law. No matter how much Luo Feng's earthling deity and the golden-horned beast improved themselves, they would not attain another talent technique. But since Mosha Body's life crystal had been imprinted with a set of lore engravings, he had gained one more talent technique. Begin, said Mosha Body and activated the new set of lore engravings inside himself. Buzz. Instantly, everything within 6,000 miles of Mosha Body was controlled by him. How fascinating it was to have absolute control over the surrounding space. Eyes filled with excitement, Mosha Body said in a low voice, I am space. Space is me. This is my domain. The moment he deployed this talent technique, a large number of messages sent from the lore engravings appeared in his head. This new talent technique was called Domain. Deity, Mosha Body said. Suddenly, vague golden lights appeared in the void. Amid the golden lights stepped a figure. It was Luo Feng in silver armor and silver wings. Mosha Body and Luo Feng looked at each other and smiled. The deity of Luo Feng brought out Jihong Emperor from the world ring. Greetings, my lords. Jihong Emperor greeted Luo Feng's deity and Mosha Body. Due to the connection of their souls, he felt that both of them were his masters. Lock down the surrounding space within 1 million miles, Luo Feng's deity commanded. Yes, Jihong Emperor answered respectfully. As the godly force diffused, the surrounding space locked swiftly. The regular space ripples had paused. My lord, the space ripples within 1 million miles have been locked, said Jihong Emperor with respect. Teleportation is prohibited within this range. The deity of Luo Feng looked at his Mosha Body and laughed. Eyes closed, Mosha Body once again enjoyed deploying his newly gained talent technique, Domain. Once he exerted Domain, he could thoroughly dominate the space 6,000 miles around him. Mosha Body revealed a smile. He vanished and reappeared 3,000 miles away. What? Jihong Emperor stared at him with surprise. As Mosha Body flickered, he appeared 6,000 miles away. Swish, swish, swish. Mosha Body shifted his locations continuously, moving freely as if the space lockdown didn't exist. How is he able to teleport? Jihong Emperor asked, utterly bewildered. The principle of teleportation was to blend into space ripples and reappear in a far-off location via the space ripples. Once space ripples were locked, it meant that no one could teleport. Not even universe knights could violate this law. Before using this talent technique, Mosha body could easily integrate himself into space ripples without causing any fluctuations, but it had been impossible for him to vanish under the circumstances of space lockdown. "This is domain," said Mosha body. "In domain, space is me, and I am space. I am integral to space. By blending into space, I can instantly turn into space anywhere within 6,000 miles, then reappear." Mosha body was full of joy. It was not teleportation that he had just displayed, but a new, two-step transportation process. Firstly, he turned himself into the space with a range of 6,000 miles. Secondly, he changed himself back into Mosha body, with the ability to choose any spot within the 6,000-mile range to reappear. Domain was an incredible method that was unrestricted by any lockdown. Within the domain, Mosha body could be anywhere. "The talent techniques of special organisms are marvelous," mused Luo Feng. "Like the endless reincarnation of silver eyes. Once glared at by his eyes, many great beings would die." Another example is Juchong Emperor, a unique organism that has even destroyed universe knights. His talent techniques must be even more terrifying. Luo Feng nodded. Mosha body's new talent, domain, is not a method for striking attacks directly. If he wants to attack, he still needs to rely on law comprehension and creating techniques. But domain is, indeed, a top-notched method for assassination, escape, and adventure. Tut! With this talent technique, Mosha body is bound to be an assassin. Mosha body was not as skilled in attacking as some special organisms like Silver Eye. However, it excelled at assassinating and ambushing. Mosha body disappeared instantly, becoming a metal sheet within the interlayer of Luo Feng armor. "I can now go anywhere with my Mosha body," said Luo Feng. The prospect was exhilarating. After all, Mosha body was almost as good at teleportation as ordinary universe knights, and domain was a technique that couldn't be gained through training. It would have taken me roughly 10 days to arrive at 9 remoteness space before, whereas now I can arrive there in half a day. My Mosha body can teleport 100 light-years away and bypass the dangerous places. Luo Feng waved his hand and took Jihong Emperor back into his world ring. Then he vanished into space. Few dangerous places were 100 light-years long, even in the ancestral god secret region. Even if there were, Luo Feng could easily dodge them. After half a day, Luo Feng appeared, opened his silver wing, and looked upon the area before him. On the surface, 9 remoteness space looked like a boundless water world. 9 remoteness space, Luo Feng murmured. Hard to imagine that several creatures with Universe Master level power are living in this 12 light-year diameter region, in addition to the innumerable valuables that have been attracting heirs here for generations. Unfortunately, most of them failed and died. I hope fortune will be with me in my quest for the world tree. Desire and aggression filled Luo Feng's heart. He would have a much brighter future if he could have a world tree as his third body. The technique known as manipulation of time and space, the stabilization of God country, and the enormous godly power, all of which Luo Feng craved. Luo Feng vanished and teleported into 9 remoteness space. It was quiet and dark in the mountainous valley. There were no plants or trees on the mountains, only rocks. The only thing that brightened the mountains was a waterfall flowing all the way from the top of the mountain to the lake. There, the water flowed outward in different directions via babbling creeks and streams. Luo Feng appeared in his silver armor. "Finally, I've arrived," Luo Feng said, looked around. He saw the desolate rocks and smiled. It's Rock Island. Although 9 remoteness space was filled with danger, there were some safe places where heirs could land without concern, and Rock Island was one of them. Nobody had ever found any danger on the island, and no one had ever been attacked by the terrifying beings of 9 remoteness space there. "Desolation implies safety," he muttered, "and there's nothing but water and rocks here." Su. Luo Feng flew up like a flash of silver light. As he flew, he looked down and spotted pieces of broken armor and scattered bodies. "Remains of heirs," he whispered. He shook his head and sighed. "I presume that the heirs who died here were killed by other heirs." Although Rock Island was the safest place in 9 remoteness space, it did not offer protection against fellow heirs. Heirs killing each other for valuables was common. Luo Feng flew more than 60 million miles. Flying over the tallest mountain, he took in the mesmerizing view from afar. Breathtaking, Luo Feng gasped. He landed and stood on the top of the mountain's peak, surveying the boundless ocean around the island. The water in the ocean was sometimes blue and sometimes purple. Suddenly, it became red, then transparent. As he watched, it turned golden, silver, gray, and blue, in that order. The color was constantly changing, giving it a magical appearance. Remoteness Ocean, Luo Feng said. Remoteness space was mainly a limitless ocean containing islands of varying size. Some aboriginal residents lived on these landforms, and fearsome beings like world trees inhabited others. One island, in particular, was colossal and had been named Tree Island by the heirs. Rock Island was tiny and one of the most commonly visited islands on Remoteness Ocean. Tree Island was much larger and was ranked among the top 10 largest islands of Remoteness Ocean. Remoteness Ocean is enormous but perilous, Luo Feng thought. The islands notwithstanding, even the ocean itself is terrifying. Especially the Remoteness whirlpool. Rumor has it that there's almost no way to get out if one becomes trapped in the whirlpool. Luo Feng gazed afar. Based on the coordinates, Tree Island lay in that direction. However, it was too distant to see from here. I need to use my Mosha body again. Luo Feng nodded and smiled. Even if my Mosha body fails, I can breed it again. Mosha body appeared, and Luo Feng teleported himself, following Mosha body. They crossed Remoteness Ocean without difficulty and soon reached Tree Island. I'll just wait here. Luo Feng's original body nodded and flew into one of the caves in the mountain. He turned on the microdetector and hid himself. In the sky, Mosha body stood in the air and stared at the massive island hundreds of millions of miles away. Beautiful, he said. Rock Island is ugly by comparison. What a pity. So magnificent, yet so dangerous. Mosha body squinted to look at the awesome scenery on the island. There were plants and trees of all sorts, and flowers of all colors were blossoming. The view was spectacular. The most eye-catching object was an emerald-colored tree whose crown was a vast, luxurious canopy. Its leaves sparkled like delicately carved jades. It was incredibly vivid and dominated the plants around it. The most powerful world tree, said Mosha body. A universe night-level special organism that can rival a universe master. There are 9 world trees in total. He is the most powerful one. It was 360 million miles tall, and its crown had a diameter of over 500 million miles. Its crown alone was larger than Rock Island, and together with its glowing, jade-like trunk, it was a sight to behold. 3 undying world trees, and 5 sector-lord-level world trees, muttered Mosha body, surveying the 8 world trees that surrounded the most powerful one. The taller ones were at the undying level, and the short ones were at the sector-lord level. Even the sector-lord level trees were 40 million miles tall, much taller than any other known creatures. There seem to be many typical flowers and grasses on Tree Island, but there are also lots of trees. Mosha body frowned. The strongest ones are the world trees, but there are also some other undying level trees here. According to my information, some universe night level trees are of different types from the world trees. It's not just the world trees I need to worry about if I land on Tree Island. I need to dodge other trees first. Mosha body stopped hesitating. He teleported and landed on Tree Island. The world trees were the kings of Tree Island, and many other botanical life forms lived there. Most of the plants on the island were quite ordinary, but a few of them were special organisms. Most of those special organisms could pose a threat to Mosha body. I can't let them see me or notice me, thought Luo Feng. Mosha body disguised himself in the facade of a floating cluster of seeds on the wind like the tuft of a dandelion seed floating in the air. Luo Feng couldn't think of anything safer. A moving plant would have drawn attention, but a seed on the wind would hopefully go unnoticed. Some of the powerful trees were intelligent, especially the undying level ones, and they were not inferior to humans. As such, Luo Feng didn't dare teleport himself directly to the most powerful world tree. Teleporting would certainly draw that world tree's attention. I'll just flutter and flutter until I reach the world tree, he thought. The seed cluster kept fluttering slowly in the air. Too slow. The seed cluster was already approaching the world trees as quickly as possible. He couldn't alter its course or increase its speed without giving himself away. If it flew against the wind or at a different speed, it would be noticed, and there would be no hope after that. I must be patient, Mosha body told himself. I'm in no rush. As long as I can fly near the world trees, I can just take a leaf. If there are some leaves on the ground, that'll work even better. I'll just take a single leaf. I'm not greedy. The seed cluster kept floating. Tree Island was like the Arcadia of ancient myth, a land of beautiful, unspoiled wilderness. Countless seeds floated in the air, and Mosha body's seed cluster was inconspicuous among them. But after 3 months of aimless floating, Mosha body was growing impatient. Gazing at the world trees still so far away, he shouted in his mind, "Too slow." The seed cluster containing Mosha body still hadn't reached the periphery of where world trees lived, even after more than 5 months of floating. At the center was the most powerful world tree, and the other 8 trees surrounded it. The 9 world trees occupied about a quarter of the island. The other trees, which were at the undying level and universe night level, all avoided the world trees. The 9 jade-like world trees were glowing. Each had a halo surrounding it, and none of the floating seeds could penetrate those halos. The seed cluster containing Mosha body landed silently. A sector-lord-level world tree with a thick trunk was tens of millions of miles away. I'm now at the closest spot to the world trees, and the closest one is a sector-lord-level world tree, thought Mosha body. Unbelievable. There are no fallen leaves. Mosha body was raging and roaring inside. If there had been some fallen leaves of the sector-lord-level world tree, he could have simply stolen a fallen leaf quickly and fled. And with his current teleportation proficiency, even universe knights would be able to find out where he had gone. There's no other way but to take a leaf by force. Mosha body immediately made a decision. The hair on its seed cluster sensed the luxuriant leaves above. Although it was still tens of million miles away from the trunk. The leaves were like exquisitely carved jades, and each of them was sparkling. Leaves fall only if they wither, thought Mosha body. But there's so much energy in these leaves, how could they ever wither? The hair on the seed cluster swayed with eagerness. On Rock Island, in the distance, Luo Feng's original body was looking forward to it. Please, he urged. You must succeed. With that leaf, I'll have my third body. That seed cluster rolled over the ground under the wind. Even when it occasionally touched the halo and bounced back, it would be blown toward the world tree again. By all appearances, it rolled on the ground randomly. The seemingly ordinary seed cluster suddenly vanished, and a blurry figure appeared beside an arm-sized branch at the edge of the crown of the Sector Lord World Tree. Mosha body grabbed a leaf the moment it appeared and tried to tear it down. He was mighty, 100 times stronger than a Sector Lord, but under the force of his pull, the thick twig of the Sector Lord World Tree only bent. The entire canopy trembled. Damn other races, a shrill, angry voice said from the leaves. I didn't get it. Mosha body was dazed. Suddenly, all the surrounding leaves that had been swaying in the wind converged on Mosha body and entwined it. Mosha body was dismantled like a crushed egg, including his life core. Mosha body was dead. So weak, the world tree scoffed. Is this what passes for an undying fighter? How could he just die like that? The Sector Lord World Tree was perplexed. Other heirs had tried to steal its twigs before, as a twig of a world tree could grow into a fully formed tree and stabilize a god country. However, it was only a Sector Lord World Tree, so a single leaf couldn't help much. Usually, one needed a whole branch, and every world tree would strive to protect itself in the face of a threat. On Rock Island. So powerful. Luo Feng was stupefied. Mosha body died before a fight could even begin. Based on what just happened, there's no way it's a Sector Lord. I'm sure it's at the Emperor level. Luo Feng was certain. All the twigs and leaves had instantly come down on Mosha body when he failed to break the leaf, and his body had been crushed instantly. Then again, maybe the genes of a Sector Lord World Tree are 1,000 times stronger than those of humans, said Luo Feng. Besides, it's instructed by that Universe Master level World Tree, so it must know amplification. That makes it dozens of times stronger. Altogether, That's tens of thousands of times stronger than a sector lord, added to some natural skills for attack. Luo Feng nodded. It was an Emperor level 1. It was not surprising that Mosha body had been killed instantly. The other world trees didn't even react when Mosha body died. Luo Feng smiled. Exactly as I expected. This kind of threat is nothing to the other world trees, especially the most powerful one, who might only strike if the lives of the sector lord world trees were in danger. I should learn from my mistakes. Luo Feng began planning his next move. After a long while, a blurry, golden light glowed in the cave. A figure appeared in the light. It was Mosha body. That just cost me some energy, said Luo Feng. Mosha body extended his hands to Luo Feng. Luo Feng turned his hands around, and a forceful flame god crystal started to dim on his palm. Mosha body took the crystal and teleported himself. I don't believe I'll fail again, said Luo Feng, hostility flashing in his eyes. The flame god crystal is not very powerful, but it's enough to kill an official level undying fighter, like a strike from a pinnacle emperor. That world tree is only a sector level, and it can't burn its body. It won't be able to defend itself against that. And besides, it's so large. Only a few 100,000 square miles will be injured. It's not a serious enough threat for most powerful world tree to interfere. Luo Feng nodded. After all, if his own student were under a threat that was not overly serious, he wouldn't intervene. I only need to bomb it once, he said. Leaves and twigs will fly around after that. I'll teleport myself and flee after getting a leaf. Luo Feng was looking forward to the result. He sensed Mosha body's location. His arrived. He can definitely succeed this time. Mosha body first teleported himself above the ocean to a point distant from Tree Island. It wasn't that far, and I can still accurately sense that position. Mosha body looked afar, and aggression flashed upon his eyes. Begin. Mosha body teleported and appeared under the crown of the same sector Lord World Tree. Explode. Mosha body threw the flame god crystal and teleported himself at the same time. It had disappeared. Boom. The flame god crystal exploded under the crown of the sector Lord World Tree with a force that could kill an official level undying fighter and rival a strike from a pinnacle emperor. Immediately, 30,000 square feet around the crystal disintegrated into nothing. The surrounding 1 million square feet was blasted to ruins, and farther away from the crystal lay some twigs and leaves. Still, it was nothing to a sector Lord World Tree with a diameter of over 60 million miles. Besides, the explosion took place tens of millions of miles away from the trunk. The energy ripple couldn't even shake the trunk. Return, said the World Tree. The emerald leaves that had been scattered by the explosion flew back to the crown, automatically merging with the original body, quickly recovering with the help of the tree's energies. As it was recovering, a figure appeared. Mosha body flew toward the twigs and leaves that were in the process of returning to the tree. He grabbed a broken twig with several leaves on it. Each of the leaves was broken. Got it. Go. Mosha body teleported and tried to get away. Destructive energy met Mosha body as soon as he grabbed the twig. Mosha body trembled and was paralyzed. A strong wind pressed down on it, and it turned to dust and vanished into thin air. Damn other races. Damn other races. The entire crown of the sector lord level world tree was trembling. It roared, Father, Father, let me kill him. How unfortunate you are, 7, said another world tree. You've lost so many leaves. Ha ha, laughed another. 7, if it weren't for our father, that thing would get away with it. The other world trees all began laughing in different sounds, some hoarse and some clear, all mocking. Shut up, all of you, yelled the world tree that had been bombed, shaking its branches. Little 7, that creature of another race is indeed very good at fleeing, a soft and gentle voice echoed through the domain of the world trees. It can teleport without even causing a space ripple. If he gets away, it'll be almost impossible to find him. I just punished him for wronging you. Isn't that nice? No, it's not. It's not. The twigs and leaves on the sector Lord World Tree were shaking crazily. Then make an effort to become an undying fighter like your brothers, the gentle voice continued. Then you won't need to be scared of the other races. The Sector Lord World tree fully recovered from its injury after a short conversation, and all the leaves and twigs grew back. There was not a single leaf on the ground. It seemed entirely unharmed. As the 9 world trees spoke, all the other life forms on Tree Island went silent. This video will end here.